Medieval mercenaries were a mixed bag, often slacking on the job, overcharging, or even switching sides. This was nothing new, but in late medieval Hungary, there was a mercenary army that was both powerful and professional, a true model for all mercenaries. Greetings, Your Majesty. I heard you've made a strategic retreat in the war. I've come with haste to suggest you form a powerful mercenary army. I believe the model of Hungary's Black Army is worth your consideration. If this information proves valuable to your campaign, please show your approval and grant me 2 gold coins as my broker's fee. The Black Army of Hungary was founded by the King of Hungary, Croatia, and Bohemia, Matthias I. He was a monarch of great vision and courage. As early as 1440, his father, John, had the idea of creating a standing mercenary army. In 1458, Matthias took the throne. At the time, Hungary was much like your kingdom. It used a feudal levy system. The army was comprised of the king's noble vassals and the militias they provided. In the late 14th century, Hungarian law stipulated that across the kingdom, for every 20 serfs, a landowner had to train and provide 1 archer for the king. This policy was later changed to 1 foot archer per 33 serfs and 3 mounted archers per 100 serfs. Nobles with land but no serfs were required to serve as soldiers themselves. This levy system had many drawbacks for the king. First, these scattered troops took a long time to assemble, making a rapid response difficult. Second, their service was limited to 15 days, and only within the kingdom's borders. This heavily restricted the king's military power. In 1459, Matthias amended the law. It required 1 archer for every 20 men. Militias from noble lands would be absorbed into the royal army instead of being led by their lords. Furthermore, the restriction on fighting only within the kingdom was abolished. Service time was also extended from 15 days to 3 months. However, even this army couldn't satisfy the king's need for a powerful military force. In Matthias's first year as king, he hired 500 mercenaries from Bohemia to help suppress a rebellion. Rather than scraping together local militias, it was better to pay for professional soldiers. Therefore, in the following years, the king sought out experienced veterans to build a standing mercenary army. In 1463, he recruited veterans of the Hussite Wars, led by Captain John Jiskra, along with his rogue army. They had been raiding the northern parts of the kingdom. King Matthias pardoned them, granting them to castles and 25,000 ducats for funding. In return, the army was stationed in Bosnia the next year to fight the Ottoman Empire for the king. During the Bohemian War from 1468 to 1478, the king began his first mass recruitment of mercenaries. To expand this army, the number of mercenaries reached 6,000 to 8,000 men. The legion's mercenaries were mainly Hungarians, Czechs, Germans, Serbs, and Poles. The name Black Army also emerged around this time. It likely came from the mercenaries, black armor, and uniforms. By 1480, the Black Army had grown to 15,000 to 20,000 men. At a military parade in Vienna in 1485, the Legion had 20,000 cavalry and 8,000 infantry, a total of 28,000 men on review. The Black Army and the French companies d'ordonnance were the only 2 professional standing armies in Europe at the time. However, the Black Army's numbers far surpassed the 4,000 men of the French companies in the same period. The difference was, the French recruited from their nobility and gentry, while the Black Army recruited mercenaries from various regions and ethnic groups. Organizationally, the Black Army consisted of heavy cavalry, light cavalry, and infantry. Heavy cavalry made up about 1/6 of the army. They were comprised of hired noble knights and used a rectangular formation. They flew banners with their family coats of arms. The Black Army's heavy cavalry often wore black armor. Their equipment was similar to typical European knights, with the lance as their main weapon. Sabers, war hammers, or battle axes were used as sidearms. The saber, in particular, was a distinct Eastern European feature. The cavalry sometimes carried crossbows as well. They also used a smaller version of the pavis shield. The legion's light cavalry were known as Hussars. The word Hussar originally meant 20. It referred to the Hungarian tradition of levying one soldier for every 20 serfs. They were mainly used for reconnaissance, scouting, cutting supply lines, and raiding enemy villages. In major battles, they would harass the enemy from the flanks or strike before the main force advanced. Hussars were typically equipped with helmets, chainmail, sabers, round shields, composite bows, and throwing axes. Their throwing axe was particularly distinctive and was known as the Hungarian axe. The infantry included regular foot soldiers, ranged units, armored infantry, and pavis shield bearers. Regular infantry used weapons like tridents, glaives, halberds, and flails. Additionally, the Black Army also included a significant number of Swiss pikemen. Crossbowmen formed the core of the ranged infantry. Around 1470, about 4,000 crossbowmen served in the Black Army. They used crossbows designed to pierce armor and carried sabers as sidearms. The legion also had handgunners, who were equipped with arquebuses. Their numbers could reach up to a quarter of the army. Even in the era after the Black Army disbanded, the ratio of firearms in European armies rarely exceeded 10%. Armored infantry and pavis bearers wore composite plate and mail armor. They used pavis shields similar to Genos crossbowmen. The armored infantry primarily used pikes, halberds, and swords. Each was assigned an attendant to help carry their armor and shield. These soldiers earned twice the pay of a regular infantryman. In formation, the armored infantry and shield bearers formed the outer ranks, creating a solid shield wall to protect the other soldiers. Influenced by the Hussite Wars, the Black Army often used the Wagenburg, or war wagon, formation. They mostly adopted a defensive posture, which is evident from their use of pavis bearers and armored infantry. Around 1475, the Black Army began using field artillery and participated in numerous sieges. Regarding infantry tactics, they used the armored infantry and shield bearers on the outer flanks, in coordination with the Hussite Wagenburg, to establish a solid defensive line, acting like a mobile fortress. In principle, these armored tanks would hold the line to the last man. Meanwhile, the light infantry and archers would wait for the right moment to break from the formation and launch an attack. If their attack faltered or they grew tired, they would retreat behind the heavy infantry's protection and wait for the next opportunity. As for the legion's heavy cavalry, they were mostly used to screen the artillery and advancing light infantry. They would only charge at a critical moment. More often, when on the offensive, the Black Army would use its light cavalry to launch surprise attacks and disrupt the enemy formation. The legion also had an inland river fleet, with some vessels equipped with cannons, capable of firing 100 to 200-pound cannonballs. This fleet played a major role in breaking the Ottoman naval blockades. In 1479, inspired by the Black Army, King Matthias established a mixed fleet of 360 vessels, manned by 2,600 sailors and 10,000 soldiers. Regarding the legion's pay, cavalrymen were paid based on the number of horses they had. Their monthly salary was 3 florins per horse. Among the infantry, armored soldiers, and pavis bearers earned a monthly salary of 6 florins. The pay for other troops like archers, light infantry, and handgunners varied by their place of origin, so it was not uniform. It was generally round 3 florins. Your Majesty, the reason I so highly recommend the Black Army is due to their outstanding combat record. According to available records, since its founding, the Black Army fought against the Holy Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Papal States, the Republic of Venice, Poland, Saxony, the Moldavians, the Czechs, and various Hussite factions. It achieved a very high win rate. During King Matthias's reign, of the 65 battles the Black Army fought, it was victorious in 53. That's a win rate of 81.5%. To put it another way, in the 32 years between 1458 and 1490, the Black Army fought in over 60 battles. That is a remarkable operational tempo. From this, you can be assured of how efficient and convenient a professional, standing mercenary army can be. In a monarch's campaigns, the Battle of Breadfield is one of their most iconic engagements. One of them, in the spring of 1479, after the Ottoman-Venetian War, the Ottomans gathered an army at Smederevo. On October 9th, the Ottomans invaded Hungarian territory. The Hungarian commander decided to wait until the Ottomans were weighed down with loot, had lost their mobility, and were exhausted before engaging them. In terms of numbers, the Hungarian army numbered 12,000 to 15,000 men. This included the Black Army, commanded by Pál Kinizsi. The Ottoman force was much larger, with 20,000 to 30,000 men, including elite janissaries, Sipahi cavalry, and Azov infantry. They had also recruited over 1,000 Wallachian mercenaries. The Hungarian army was formed into 3 divisions. The right wing was the Black Army, led by Kinizsi. The left wing was comprised of Serbian light cavalry. The center, under Stephen Bathory, consisted of Saxon troops. As the battle began, the Ottoman army had the advantage. The Hungarian commander in the center, Bathory, was thrown from his horse and nearly captured. He was luckily rescued by a nobleman. At this critical moment, Kinizsi led the Black Armies, heavy cavalry, and 900 Serbian lancers, driving back the enemy assault. He then outflanked and shattered the Ottoman center, forcing a full retreat. In this battle, the Ottomans lost over 5,000 soldiers and 1,000 Wallachian mercenaries. This included to high-ranking pashas and to Turkish beys. Many more soldiers deserted during the retreat. The Hungarian forces, in turn, lost around 3,000 men. The Black Army, facing adversity, showed exceptional tactical skill and fighting spirit, helping the Hungarian army win a decisive victory against a numerically superior foe. It is said that the Black Army's commander at the time, Pál Kinizsi, was never defeated in his entire life. However, even such a powerful and disciplined professional army was not immune to the risks of mutiny and rebellion. Unpaid wages were the main reason for this. In 1465, after the Black Army defeated an Ottoman force in Slovenia, they neared the city of Zagreb. Due to a lack of funds, the commander asked the king to halt the campaign. After being refused, the commander and 2 of his officers led the army away. They established a fortress and began raiding the area. In 1467, the king assembled an army to crush this rebellion. This force included loyalist troops from the Black Army. Before the siege, the king offered the rebels a chance to surrender. When they refused, most of the 2,000 rebels were wiped out. The captured commander and 100 of his soldiers were sentenced to death by hanging. However, at the request of other generals, they were ultimately pardoned. Another mutiny occurred in 1474, again over the issue of pay. This time, however, the conflict was resolved through negotiation. The mutinous mercenaries and their commander returned to serve the king once more. As you can see, even a mercenary army under a king's firm control, unlike the Italian condottieri, could rarely betray their employer and escape unscathed. Even when rebellions occurred, they were generally contained. Therefore, I strongly recommend that you establish a similar mercenary army and maintain firm control over it. Sufficient funding, of course, is the best guarantee of its loyalty and combat effectiveness. But most importantly, you are a powerful monarch, much like Matthias. Only under the command of such a ruler can an army like the Black Army be kept in check. After King Matthias died, Hungary fell into turmoil. After its pay was repeatedly withheld, the Black Army's discipline collapsed. Its soldiers began to loot and pillage. Eventually, they even betrayed Hungary, secretly allying with the Ottoman Empire. They attempted to hand their fortress over to the Ottomans. Finally, a Hungarian commander uncovered their plot. He arrested all the commanders and their men for treason. They were all starved to death, and so the legion was disbanded. Although this mercenary army achieved greatness under a heroic ruler, its ultimate fate was tragic. But this model of army building, for a great king such as yourself, is highly relevant I sincerely hope to one day see an equally powerful and professional army under your command. I wish you great victory in the wars to come. Until the victory feast,